once you've agreed on why privacy is going to be important to your business at a high level, the next thing you will need to think about is your risk appetite. So there are some businesses that we work with where they have a reasonably low risk profile in relation to the data that they process. And so for those businesses, they decide that they're going to have a maybe slightly higher than usual risk appetite. And they kind of come to this conclusion that we just want to do effectively the foundational things or the bare minimum in some cases. And we work with other customers who have a very high risk profile. And as such, they will have a very low risk appetite and want to effectively do everything to a best in class standard. There is a big gap between these two ends of the spectrum, and it's really important that you agree with your senior leadership team where roughly you want to sit on that risk spectrum, because that will have a lot of downstream implications when it comes to planning out and implementing your privacy program. Once you've agreed on your risk appetite, it's then we're then going to go into, okay, how do we actually run a privacy program? Now, when doing this, it's important to think about privacy and your program through the lens of risk. Otherwise, you fall into the trap of effectively kind of like just ticking boxes for the sake of it, which we don't want. And we know at TrustKey from experience of having done hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of audits that the tick box approach just doesn't work. And so on that note, I'm going to talk you through today 3 main areas to running through your privacy program. Number 1 is going to be identifying the top risks that are applicable to your business. Number 2 is going to be how do we treat those risks? And then number 3 is going to be how do we monitor for existing risk remediations that we've implemented, and how do we monitor for new risks that are going to be applicable to our business as well? And it effectively then goes round in a cycle. So, section 1, identifying your risks. There are 3 main recommendations that we would have when it comes to identifying privacy-related risks to your business. Number 1 is to map out your data. Sounds really simple, sounds really obvious, but we are always surprised how few businesses have actually done this. Why is this important? Well, you need to understand what data you process in order to figure out what your privacy program should look like and where the risks are in your business. So, how do you map out your data in a simple and pragmatic way? There are lots of tools out there that can help you with this, not least TrustKey's, but actually there are some really foundational things that you can do without any tools to get started, and I'm going to talk through them now. So the first thing is that you should meet with each of the function leaders in your business and ask some very simple but quite insightful questions. Things like, what personal data do people in your team use? And why and how do they use that data? This is going to help us figure out where the sensitive data is, and it will later down the line, it will allow us to start answering questions around what our lawful basis is for processing data. You will also want to ask them questions like, where did you get this data from? Did you get it from LinkedIn? Did you buy it? Did you make it up yourself? Again, has lots of downstream implications when thinking about compliance. You would also want to ask, where is this data stored? Both in terms of the system you store it in and in terms of the location of the data in terms of hosting. The reason we want to figure out what system it's hosted in is because there are different risk profiles associated to different systems. We may want to conduct vendor due diligence on the systems processing our most sensitive data. And in terms of location, there are downstream implications in terms of potentially doing something called international data transfers, which is another topic for another day. The final question you will want to ask is, how long do you retain that data for? The answer, if this is the first time you're running a privacy program, a lot of the time the answer is going to be, well, we never delete it, which is not necessarily a huge problem. The important thing is that you know that, so that you can take some action off the back of it, because we will need to start looking at things like retention of data, which is a very important part of any privacy program. But again, another topic to go into more detail for another day, I think. So back to data mapping. Once you've met with your key stakeholders, you've asked all of the key questions, and you've got a sense of what data is being processed and how it's being used. Compile it all into one place. Again, there are tools that can help you do this. If you're just getting started, an Excel sheet or a Microsoft Word document or even a Miro board is a good starting point. Now, that's step number one, mapping out your data and actually understanding what data is being used. Step number two is to then audit what existing policies and processes you have in place in relation to data protection and privacy today. What policies are there? Are they fit for purpose when you actually read them? Do they make sense in context of your business? Do staff know that they exist? And do we have any evidence to prove that they're actually being adhered to? What we often see from the many hundreds of audits that we've done is companies reactively pull together policies as and when they need them throughout the life cycle of their business. And then when we come in and audit it, what we see is effectively a load of disjointed policies that are patchy in terms of evidence and very often are kind of just gathering dust in a folder somewhere, which is okay to tick a box. But if you want to properly manage risk when it comes to privacy and do a privacy program properly, this approach just is not going to work. Audit what's in place at the moment, figure out is it being used, figuring out do you actually need it, and figure out are staff actually doing what it says. And again, just document all of the findings somewhere. A Word doc is fine just to get you started. The third thing you need to do when it comes to the identifying your risk section is, or at least what we do and what we recommend, is to set up a quarterly risk review. Now, in this meeting, we typically have the DPO and primary contact, and typically we'll have the senior owners joining that call. And in this meeting, it makes sense for you to review your top priority risks based on the data mapping and the audit results, and like the policy review that you've done. When it comes to things like this, it can, if you're taking on the DPO role for the first time and you're not a subject matter expert, at least yet, it can be really useful to have access to a subject matter expert who can help you navigate this section and help ensure that when you're reviewing everything, you're spotting the right things, because there will be kind of unknown unknowns that you're not aware of right now. In your risk committee, you want to have your senior owners, you want to review what you think are the top priority risks to your business based on the data mapping and audit. And then effectively during this meeting, we want to agree on what are the top priorities to our business for the coming 1, 2, 3, 6 months, whatever it might be. You can pick the time frame that is most appropriate to your business and agree on a plan of action and how you're going to remediate them. And that should set the tone for what the plan is for the rest of we typically work on a quarterly cycle. So that's section one, identify your risks by mapping out your data, auditing your existing policies, and setting up a risk committee meeting where you can review the findings.